council and attaching a document marked confidential, that obviously undermines the confidence or confidentiality of the memo. I just pointed out that, you know, that should be concerning, because it's really for the council, any communications that are marked a confidential attorney-client communication, the intention is they should remain confidential. Now, it is the client's right to waive any privilege, and the client in this case is the council. So it's not the attorney's right to waive, meaning if I mark a document a confidential attorney-client communication, I have no right as the town attorney to waive that privilege and disclose that document. You all have the right to waive that privilege and disclose any documents that are marked, but that waiver has to occur by a majority because you all function as a whole. So I just pointed out that, you know, I think you have to be very careful and respect, you know, those documents that are marked that way. Now, if a council member wants to pursue that more because they're a member of this council and it's really their privilege to waive, not one member, and that's really up to them to pursue it further.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't that matter also go to the plumbing commission?
I don't know that it did.
It
No.
did, because you sent it to them, and that's where, if you recall, the follow-up response that came from the
There you
plumbing
go,
commission.
disclosing confidential right in a meeting.
But it's, I mean, it's already been put out there to the public, Chip. You know that.
No, I don't.
No.
You do know that because you got a response back from them, the plumbing commission.
I've said my piece.
Well, one thing is, it's clear why the Chestertown Spy is here tonight.
One thing clear, what?
Why the Chestertown Spy is here tonight. They haven't been here in several months.
Dan likes us.
They're always here when there's a controversial subject to slam someone.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of emailing going on back and forth that violates a lot of the ethics that the town has set forth. And
There's been many
personally,
things brought
personally,
up
I think it ought to be
including from
turned
the-
over to the state's attorney and let him decide what should be done with it and
Wow.
done about it.
I think,
And I put that in the form of a motion.
I think as Susan states, there's been a number of things, and it's the reason why we want to create an ethics commission is because there's a lot of things that should go before this group.
Butch, I happen to agree totally with you, because the confidential attorney-client communication, once it's set, even as having elected, if you can't even impose that. So you do have
Well,
a
we don't
second,
know what
Butch.
Robert
All
Strong's
right.
gonna go with it,
We have
Sure.
a motion and a second.
don't we, guys?
So if we can, I'll bring up the other information that Chip has in turn, he knows that exists, that's out there. So, I mean, the board can, you know, that's what the wishes of the board is, you know, again, there's more to it than just that. So
That's right.
we all know that, and if that's the game that you want to play, that's fine.
Well, let me just address that, because you're saying that in public. I've been very clear what happened.
You asked me
said-
for, you asked me
I
to
didn't
in
ask
turn
you
show
for- no.
you correspondence.
No, I
Chip.
did not.
You
I
did.
didn't ask- I
You
did
said
not
at that
ask-
meeting to show you, that's why I turned put it before the press, because I could not present it that way.
Thank you for admitting what you've done, because I did not ask you to send confidential attorney-client privileged information to the public, okay? I did not ask you to do
Public
that.
was here,
You
you asked
elected-
for it that
you-
night, and I
no.
did not have it in front of me.
Let's just be crystal clear, Mayor. You on your own decided to send an email to me.
Per your request. That's how the.
I did
email-
not
But you
ask
didn't have to
anything.
carbon copy in it to the
Okay,
Kent County News.
I didn't expect anything from you after the meeting, frankly.
I could
You-
not in turn produce the documents that you stated that night as we tried.
I did not
And
ask
still
you-
have not been able to get down to the bottom of those letters
The
issues.
bottom point
Be
here
that as it
is
may,
that
even
you
if-
carbon copied it to the Kent
Even
County
if I
News.
did ask you for anything, I certainly didn't suggest, make sure you copy members of the Kent County News when you send me
Kent County
copy.
News was here that night when you said to me,
Oh my
show you
gosh.
some documentation that in turn showed that there was some.
So to make your
juvenile-
point for your own benefit,
Not
you
my
make sure
benefit,
that
you asked.
For the
No,
public-
You
no, no.
asked.
Public's
And it was for the
benefit.
public's
For the
benefit
public's
because you
benefit.
asked.
For you just said, for your benefit, to make sure they knew what you were saying was true, you made sure the Kent News was copied on a confidential
Did we not have a
memorandum.
discussion the night before?
That's
over what was
irrelevant.
there?
The
It is
point
not
is,
irrelevant.
you
It's the whole thing
disclosed, the
centers around
point
it.
is, you disclosed the confidential
The whole
document.
thing centers around it, Chip.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second on this table. Let's move on.
All right, all in favor? Any further discussion?
It's just another,
Sure it
it's
is.
another
Sure it is.
witch hunt.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Aye. Are you happy, Mr. Whitman?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Next is the new business, and this deals with the auditor. we received correspondence from from Lindsay and Associates in an email, that had made a request of the contract understanding. And I think it was clear that the, council had in turn, agreed to exercise the fourth-year option. We did not in turn agree to entertain the contract that was proposed, before them. So what I'm gonna suggest is that we put out, an RFP, for an auditor for the next, at least 3 years, and however they wanna, structure the fourth-year option.
No, they were probably asked not to come tonight.
What's the board's position?
I didn't see you hide it. You were hiding.
I wasn't hiding. David's big head was.
What do I think? You can read my cup. That's what I think for another year.
Well, I'm gonna
I think we need to keep Lindsay and Associates for another year. I think they've been very good and reliable, and they gave us a good price. And
I agree completely.
Lindsay
What
and
they've been
Associates,
through.
we've had them for 4 years.
I'll make a motion that
Even
we
like- excuse me,
retain
may I talk?
Lindsay
Yeah,
Associates.
Butch, the council member's speaking.
We've had Lindsay and Associates for 3 years, and we said last year we'd take them for 1 more year. And I have said over and over again, we need a new set of eyes on this town and the finances. And
And
we
they-
need to have a new company in here, because Lindsay and Associates on these internal controls are only told what they're told by the staff and by the town manager. These internal controls need to be looked at better, and they're not gonna be looked at if we keep the same company. They need to be looked at by, we need to have another company.
This is a very reliable company who has towns that they do all over the state. They do not use the same auditor each and every time. They use different auditors because their reputation depends on this.
I'm not saying that they're not a good company, I'm just saying that after 3 years,
Well,
going on our 4th-year option, we said 1 more year with Lindsay and Associate, and then the next time we came around for budget, we would look
Yeah.
at other companies.
I make a motion that we keep Lindsay and Associates.
I'm not sure the contract that what Lindsay has before us, I mean, I'm sure they would certainly entertain a 4th year, but the way the current contract is drawn up, it doesn't provide for that type of, for that. It's a 3-year, what they currently have is a 3-year contract with a 4th-year option.
I'll give you a second motion.
All right? Okay, call this to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Aye. Next is the, put on the agenda, process to get an opinion from the Attorney General. Chip, if you could just give us an overview of what's involved for that sort of thing?
What kind of, on what kind of subject matter?
If we were to get just an opinion from the Attorney General, what is the
On a
process?
legal matter?
Yeah,
Generally, I mean, without knowing anything more, generally, in order for a municipality or a county to get a legal opinion from the Attorney General's office to a question, a legal question, they have to first prepare their own opinion and then submit the request to the Attorney General's office.
so,
Which obviously, depending on the nature of the legal question, forming a legal opinion can be and again, I'm not knowing the question, it can be a complicated issue, it can take some time, it can be costly, if it's a question that requires a lot of research.
does the CEO have any part in this? The mayor
Who's
of
the
the town?
CEO? Have any
I
part
mean, if
in
you look
the-
on if you look, I mean, I'm just trying to understand what I saw when I look on the Attorney General's webpage. When it talks about, talks about governments, it states that the request comes from the CEO of the town, and it's accompanied by a legal opinion.
Correct. So, if you make a request without a legal opinion by the town attorney on the question you're asking, they'll send it back and say, we're not gonna give you an opinion until we see what your town attorney says.
Okay, so again, I guess I just trying to understand, and I don't have any at this time, any subject matter, it's just again, did the mayor put in the request and the attorney?
Right,
puts
just
in
like
a
it
legal
sounds like the
opinion?
website said.
Very good, all right.
Now, a way around the cost that may be incurred in doing that is asking a member of the General Assembly Members of the General Assembly are able to ask for opinions, and they don't have that issue of having to get their own legal opinion. But members of the General Assembly may be reluctant to do that depending on the nature of the question. So again, without knowing the nature of the question, I really can't get into all the other options you might have to get an AG's opinion.
We'll follow up more on that, thank you. Next is the Rock Hall Expo. I did put that down. Susan mentioned that the museum will be setting up at the expo. The Business Association has to have a tram. I think Cindy and Jim are looking to move out on the marketing. It would be good to have that there, and then just the town table would be good to have there as well. So I went ahead and reserved on the town's behalf space. Then it does not charge us for space there. So, does the board have any questions or comments on that?
No, for the expo?
Correct?
No, it's, oh, you're still in new business, right?
Yeah.
I'm jumping back and forth there, I'm still over here. We're going to old business next one, though.
Yeah. All right. Everybody good with that? Next is, we've already addressed the website committee. I put Dollar General on there because at the last meeting, we had a little bit of a question at the end of the meeting with respect to the letter that was sent off. Has the letter been sent off, I guess is the question, because we understand that the letter that was put in the packet at the last meeting was for purposes of, Brian, you would call it Lacy, and she said it was for the minutes, although we already had received a copy earlier, that was
It
on
was
file.
two different forms with, I don't know, because one letter was the first one we got, then we changed it from variety grocery to, or variety grocery.
Yes,
And the language of that, and it was two of them. I don't know which one.
Well, one letter had the guy's name on it and one letter didn't.
Right.
The one that was sent
I
out
mean, there were two that
did
we
not
looked at
have
the
the
end of the
name on
meeting.
it. And then this new letter that was in the pack had his name on it.
but as Lacy indicated, that was just for purposes of having within the minutes, as I understand it. So I assume the letter has gone out, is what I just wanted to,
Lacey's been out for a week, so.
Can you ask her on Monday?
Hmm?
Can you ask her
Well,
yourself?
sure, I can follow, I'll follow up with her absolutely on this, but I just wanted to, if there was any other, discussion on this matter,
I assumed it was out myself.
all right? Next is the, town manager's report.
I don't know, I think we've covered most of that.
All right,
I have one old business.
yes,
Or it's really not old business, but we have an MML coming up again this spring. And I just wanna touch base for one of these meetings coming up on the agenda. You see all the other towns at the MMLs, I think it was, I mean, I felt bad Rock Hall didn't have a display down there at the MML, as much as we have as town to offer. And you have other little municipalities all over the state of Maryland, I mean, smaller than us, well represented. Is there any way of looking back in and maybe we can go ahead and,
Well,
Get a
as much flack as we got that year
I
being down
understand.
there,
Hey,
having, you
we
know.
caught it, didn't we? Well, we put people in the
Well,
rooms,
Jason,
I think a lot of
give
flack
people
about
a
even
free
having
place to
a
stay, or
place
not
to
free,
stay.
but,
all it takes is 3
The-
votes.
you know.
We
But
can know all it takes
I
is
think,
3
I think
votes.
we should relook at it, cause
Well, we're down there anyway, so we wouldn't have any extra expense.
Unless you want to have somebody help and assist. in
well, what we're
that.
referring to is when two other people that man the booth
in the
were
street.
given I think 1 night or 2 nights down there for
One night.
30 hours of volunteer work or more, which they did do and sat there all day. And it was some controversy brought up about the monies, other taxpayers' money being
I
spent.
just thought that he said he couldn't go this day.
No, I think it was because we had a lot of, at the meetings, there was a lot of scrutinizing of the monies that were spent, and I
And
think
that's what
that
it was
just,
over.
that's pretty much it.
It was over us, the town itself paying for a one-night stand for somebody to man the booth and represent the town, which I think is totally great that we should have somebody.
It's well
Rock Hall
worth it.
should have a booth down there to represent our town. I mean, I think we should, and I'm not gonna go into more discussion. I think we should go ahead and all look at it, think about it, maybe next workshop or something, just
Okay,
try to work on it, see if we can get a booth down there. I mean,
it's good promotion for the town.
I mean, we have a lot to offer here, and you go there, you don't see Rock Hall down there, you know? There's the MML and all these other towns in Maryland, you know?
Okay,
And I didn't agree with taking them out the last time, and if I was gonna volunteer the work, I would want a place to stay on the town's behalf.
well, it's just looking at. the
Taxpayers'
audience.
monies It goes a lot of different directions around here, but that is one good that it would go for
Well, it's a
one
tourism
listing.
promotion.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
Can we go ahead and review that a little bit in our minds and maybe come up next workshop or we have plenty of
I'm
time.
always for it. I think it's a.
I mean, we have plenty of time to set it up.
Well, it's just a matter of, you know, if we agree to it, we let Stephanie know to go ahead and sign the town of Rock Hall up to have a position on the main, or a location on the Main Street.
I mean, I know we're at the end of February, we got March, April, boom, it's, you know, it's right
I
around.
think by the next meeting, we should go ahead and definitely sign off on it.
Rather early than,
Well, because she's gonna need to get paperwork in outside of what we're gonna have at the budget workshop. We're gonna have to get the
Which
paperwork in.
conference is much earlier this year.
I mean, earlier we get our act together and either we're gonna do it or we're not gonna do it. If we are gonna do it, let's go forward and do it right.
Okay. All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
If everybody agrees to it.
I said, I think it's good to understand. Yes.
I'm gonna be there anyway this year with Susan, wouldn't cost anything extra, I'd be willing to volunteer some time, put in the booth.
I'd volunteer some time myself down there. I spend all day in there anyway. I enjoy it in there. But, you know, talking to the different vendors, even if you're there at your own booth, you do go ahead and when it's a little bit of slack time, you can talk, you know, I'll sit there, so do you, I've seen you
I'll
all
put
do
some
it.
time there.
Talk to people from all over Maryland. It's a pretty neat experience, you know, really.
Good. Thank you.
I wanted to go ahead and touch up on that
All
because
right.
I know we're getting around the corner this spring.
I did pass in one thing on the old business, that was a letter to Funk Bolton. It was, I had emailed the board and had advised that I was going to seek the monies that were spent on the Open Meeting Act violation from the office of Funk Bolton. And I've not, at this point, Chip, do you have any, is there any position with Funk Bolton on this?
Yeah, to the extent that wasn't a request of the town, I wouldn't expect a response.
Okay, so we're looking to see if there's a position of the board that would.
Well, at the last meeting, the board, I asked the question very specifically whether that letter that you wrote to the firm was an action authorized by the full council, you acting on behalf of the town, and they said no. You said you did that on your own.
And I
So
said,
that's not
I
official.
contacted the.
I know,
the
you
board.
tried to say that by sending it to them as a draft, they somehow approved
Well, you
your
were said in
action.
some
And I
way by
asked you-
silence
So,
that
no,
there wasn't
and
a response.
then I asked you what meeting.
Is that then the position of the board that they do not want to in turn collect the fees from Funk and Bolton for the violation of the Open Meeting Act? I mean, if that's the position of the board, then we'll rescind the letter.
Well, I would be careful with the question that was just posed.
It's tricky.
My question was, did the letter that was already issued on town letterhead,
I'm asking if
signed
they
by
want to
the...
rescind the letter. It's that simple. If the
We
board-
didn't.
Well, they never authorized it, so why would
But
you
I
ask
think
them to
it's my
rescind it?
position,
You had no, I
it's
mean,
I think it is my position to do that. I mean, I looked
you
at the
can ask them
charter.
whatever, I'm just trying to make sure that they're clear on what you're asking them to do.
But you're saying I don't have any authority to do that.
You can write any letter you want, the question is what meaning it has to the recipient.
So what would be a good way to phrase it to the board to just know where we stand with this letter then? Does the
I
board
have
endorse
the
the
answer,
letter?
no, I don't, that's up to you, I have the answer I asked to the question I asked at
Well,
the
that's,
last meeting.
well, I'm gonna ask so I can put this thing to rest. Does the board support this letter or not?
Or you may be saying, does the board support the
The letter.
requesting of asking for the funds back from Funk and Bolton?
Correct.
For the open
The
meeting
letter's
act for
already
the
been
illegal.
sent. So we should have voted before you.
Well, I can resend this letter again, or we can just, I can in turn, like I say, we can write a new letter based on the actions of the board.
I think it dies right here.
I think it dies.
I'll make a motion to kill it.
I second.
So we have an illegal meeting in charge of $800,000.
It was an opinion, Susan. You
Opinion.
forget
It's not a
the
legal
one word in the
meeting,
dictionary
opinion.
that starts with an O, and it's opinion. Okay? Opinion.
All right,
I've got something. We had a Freedom of Information Act request, and we have attorney fees related to that request. It's my understanding that person has not come in to receive that information and pay those fees. So how do we go about that? Now the town has incurred.
that's a good question, because what I'm interested in knowing is we had other individuals that put in the very same request, but the town did not act. But in this case, they did act, and they created a bill. I would think that it would be, if the town was going to in turn put a bill out to that individual, we probably should have known them ahead of time that there was going to be some cost associated with it. And I guess my answer to that is, you know, we